Class, in this video I'm going to be talking about images and digital images specifically. This is a lecture, so I'll be going over some terms and some technical details, but I'm not going to be demoing anything. We'll do that in the next video. But we're going to be starting with images and we're going to be creating some images. So I just want to talk about how images work and what we'll be doing. I think images is a good place to start because I think it's likely that all of you use images and create images on a pretty regular basis. It's probably true that you guys also create audio and other things like that, maybe animation. But I think it's pretty safe to say that everyone in the class has created an image and edited an image in some way. Most likely using a website or app or social media. And so, yeah, I think it's a good place to start because you guys will be somewhat familiar with it. And maybe, it'll be interesting to find out some more details. And then one of the things that we'll see throughout the semester is a lot of the same things that apply to different types of media are kind of the same. So the way that we talk about it, the way that we use it on the computer, there's a lot of similarities, even though the end product is kind of different. So what is a digital image? There's different types of images. A digital image is an image that's sort of just a representation of an image on using digital data or on a computer. This could be a photograph that's digitized. It could be an image that's created originally on the computer. It could be, a scan. There's different ways to do it. But it's the main idea is that it's represented by data on the computer. And so we'll talk a little bit about how the computer does that and what some of the effects are when we use images because of that. We'll talk about some of the differences of digital images. So I'm going to be using Photoshop to kind of demonstrate some stuff. So we'll be doing a bit of demo in Photoshop in the next video and actually using it. But I'm just going to have it open here just to kind of demonstrate a couple things. So I'm going to open up an image that I downloaded from Wikipedia. There's this image of a lizard that I really like because it has a lot of nice colors and nice details. And so I'm going to just drag this over to Photoshop. You don't have to do this. If you want, you could, but I'm just using this as an example. This is what Photoshop is going to look like. I'm going to hide this. And so this is what an image looks like in Photoshop. One of the things that we want to look at is how this image is created, what it's made of. And the thing that it's made of, this particular image, and not all images are, but most of them are, it's made of something called pixels. And pixels are just these like squares of color information that are saved digitally on the computer. And if we have enough of them, which we have a lot here, it looks like a real image. But you'll notice if I zoom in really, really closely into this lizard, eventually we just see lots of squares with different colors. And so when we're zoomed in this close, we just see the raw data essentially. When we zoom out far enough, we don't see data, we see a picture. Obviously, this is not what happens in real life. If you get really, really close to a lizard, it doesn't turn into a bunch of boxes. But on the computer, we have a limited amount of data. And so we have to be clever about the way that we represent things like images so that we can save an image on a computer and, save lots and lots of images on a computer or another device. So what are these pixels made out of? They're made out of numbers that represent different color values. So in Photoshop, we have this thing called the color picker. And you'll notice if I move this around, I get different colors. And you'll notice that these numbers move around. And there's a few different ways of looking at them. But the main way that we look at them is right here, RGB. This stands for red, green, and blue. And the way that computers sort of see color or think of color is basically just mixing together red, green, and blue. So if you have, a lot of red, you're going to get a red color. If you have no red, you're going to have, if you have no red, green, or blue, you're going to have a black color. If we have lots of green, our color gets green. If we have lots of blue, our color gets blue. And then if we mix them together, if I mix a lot of blue and green together, I get this sort of cyan color. If I mix some red in there, if I have a full value of all my colors, I get white. If I take out a little green, I just have red and blue, I'm going to have pink. And then all these millions of different colors we can represent on the computer are just different blends of those three values. So just to kind of quickly get into some nerd stuff about how this actually works. So RGB is the sort of standard that we use for color for pixels. And the red, green, and blue values, you probably noticed this, they're represented by numbers that range from 0, which means none of that value, to 255. So you can see that they're all 255 here. That's how you get white. And so you might be wondering why 255, not like 0 to 1 or 0 to 100 or 0 to 1,000 or whatever. But there's a reason for that. And so you don't really need to know this, but I think it's kind of interesting. We'll get into some kind of nerdy stuff. So each one of our red, green, and blue values is represented by a byte. And the amount of data that we can save for different values is referred to as bit depth. And a bit is a binary digit. So the way that computers work is they save information using switches. Switches can only be on or off. So each switch, and the computer has billions of tiny little switches in something called a transistor. Each switch can basically be, it can be on or it can be off. It's just two values. And sometimes we refer to those, we look at those values as 0 and 1. And so a computer is really, really fast and it can do lots of cool things, but everything has to kind of reduce to these 0 or 1 values. So we have to be clever about the way that we save information. So a bit, again, is a binary. Binary just means 2 digit, and digit just means number. Okay, so 1 bit is either 0 or 1. So how do we go from 1 bit to red? Well, red uses a byte, and a byte is just 8 bits. And the range of data that we can get from 8 bits, so let's make a little table and divide it in half and in half on each side, and then half and half and half. So the range of data that we can get if we have 8 bits is using binary. So we use binary. So this is a clever way of basically getting more values. So for each one of these boxes, we assign a value, and then we add up what's on and what's off to get the resulting value. So our first box is either just 0 or 1. Our second box is either 0 or 2. Our third box is 0 or 4. You might notice a pattern here. Then we go to 8, we go to 16, 32, 64, and 128. So you might be wondering, where is 255? If we add up all these numbers, 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8 plus 16, 32, 64, 128, that's where we get 255. So if all of our bits are off, we'll get 0, because we'll get 0 plus 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 0. If all of our bits are on, we'll get 255. And then we can get any number in between 0 and 255 using some combination of these values. So let's say we wanted to get 10. Well, we could start with 8. 8 is pretty close to 10. So, whoops. Oh, I deleted that by mistake. Let's just draw that again real quick. Okay, so we wanted to get to 10. We got 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. That's all we need. So if we have 8 and 2, that equals 10. So we can represent 10 as 0, 1, 0, 1, and then 0, 0, 0, 0. Anyway, that's basically, what each one of these pieces of data is made up of, is a byte. Whoops. So when we make an image, the way that we make the image is by doing something called sampling. So as I mentioned, we have a finite amount of data that we can use. And in the real world, the lizard has an infinite amount of skin and detail. We can't save all of that information, so we do something called sampling. We basically decide how many dots do we need from this image to make something that looks real, or that looks close enough to what it looks like with our eyes. That's called sampling. So the number of dots that we use is the number of samples that we have to represent this image. And if we go to the image and go to image size, we can see how big this image actually is in pixels. So it's 960 by 582 pixels. So that number times that number, 960 times 582, that's how many dots there are in the image. So it's actually not that many, it's 500,000, but that's how many little dots there are. That's how many samples of data there are in this image. So yeah, we just looked at image size. Let's keep going. So we also can think of the resolution of an image. This is more for print. We're not really worried so much about print in this class. If you take more graphic design classes, you may start doing projects where you print things out on a piece of paper for like a poster or a pamphlet or something like that. Then you'll have to worry about resolution. This is basically how many of those dots do we put on an inch of paper. And so for a computer, you can have as many dots as you want. We don't really care. That it's not as relevant. It might matter for your screen, like how many dots are in your screen. But when you're printing something out, if you have like 300 dots per inch, it's going to be very high detail. It's going to look really good. If you have lower number of dots per inch, it's going to be lower detail. So it'll look more like what it looks like when we zoom in on this guy. You'll start to see some of the digital blocks of the pixels. Okay, so this is all the pixel sort of paradigm that we've been talking about. This is all what's called raster graphics or bitmap graphics. So when you hear somebody say bitmap or raster, what they're talking about is representing an image in this way when you have lots of dots or pixels. When we're creating images on a computer, though, we don't often start with bitmaps. When you're making like a new image, like let's open a new Photoshop document, create, and we'll go over some of these tools in another video. But when you're creating an image, what you usually use is like shapes and stuff like that. Like you might draw a square, and this isn't represented as dots. Let's give this square a fill. If I zoom in on this square, we do actually see these dots, but that's just the computer. But if I make changes to this, so for example, if I round this corner, notice this blue line is like really smooth. And when I zoom in here, you can see that the image eventually will just be dots, but that blue line just stays smooth. And what that's called is a vector. So the other way that we represent images digitally or graphics is using vectors. And vectors are essentially what we see here. If I turn off the fill and the stroke, we just see these points in space. So these blue lines and dots are not part of our image. Photoshop is telling us what this shape is going to look like once we apply these colors. And what vector graphics do is they basically just take these dots in space and they connect them with color. So raster is when we actually have like a pixel for every single dot in our image. And vector is when we have points and we draw color in between the points. So different file types will use raster or vector. So Photoshop documents are usually going to be raster oriented because we're editing photos. Raster is better for photos because there's lots and lots of details. You wouldn't want to have like a point like this for every single dot of the lizard because it would just be too much information. So it's easier just to do colors. But if you're making a logo or something that's supposed to look, smooth and blocky like this, you don't need to save, a million pink dots to represent this square. You can just say, these are the points I want and fill it in with pink. So in different contexts, those approaches are better. So a good example of something that we would use a vector graphic for is like a logo. So here's the Apple logo. I downloaded this from Wikipedia as well. And this is actually a rasterized version of the logo. So if I zoom in, you will see dots. But this is just an example of the kind of thing that would make sense to have vectors, because we only have one color. We have these very smooth lines, and we just have these points, and then we do some math to say, how to calculate where to put the color. All right, so when we're editing images, we're going to have two different types of files. One is an edit file, and this is true with almost all multimedia. So a Photoshop document is like an edit file, so we can make changes to it, and it saves all these changes. And we'll talk about this more in our demo. But when I, save this image, I can make changes to it, and I can come back to it. There's also export files. These are when we take the image and package it into one just flat image. And that's what we use most of the time. That's what you could send to somebody on your phone, or post on social media, or email to somebody, or post on the web. One last thing to cover, we'll talk about this a little bit more as well when we do the demo. But when we're using images, part of what we're going to be doing in our project is combining images together, which is called compositing. And so we'll look for different image sources, and we'll do that on the web. You can take photos if you want to use it for this project, but I'll just be using photos from the web. And so when I want to use an image, usually what I do is I'll go to Google. You guys probably do this too. I'll go to images for Google, and if I want to find a lizard image, I'll just look at lizard images. And when you just search for images, you're not going to see any difference between these different images. But there's a difference between images that are created for people to use versus images that are created for a commercial reason. So the reason I like Wikipedia is because they only use images that are for people to use. So if I go to this image and I click in here, I'm going to see that there's a license here. And this basically gives rules about how this can be used. And what this basically says, I'll talk about this more later, but this basically says I just have to give attribution to the person who created the image. So as long as I say who created it, I'm allowed to use it for my own project. Some images are not going to have that. So let's see, here's an image from the zoo. They probably don't license this. Maybe they will. Yeah, so there's no information here about this image, and these are really nice photos. They probably put a lot of work into this. They don't really want you to necessarily just take these images and use them somewhere else. So that's another thing that we're going to be looking at when we use images from the web is what are the rules around using images for different media projects. When you're a student, you might not really care that much. You probably won't get in trouble if you steal an image from the zoo and post it on your portfolio or whatever. But we want to think about it more from sort of an industry professional perspective. If you're making something that is going to be an ad campaign, or that's going to be used in a video game or some product that you're creating, you want to make sure that you're using materials that you're allowed to use, so people can't sue you, people can't take your work down. So that's something that we'll also be looking at throughout the semester as we make our projects. All right, so I've covered everything I wanted to cover here. In the next video, we're actually going to start using Photoshop, so I'll go over some of the tools, and we'll make a simple project just to get started. So I'll see you guys in the next video.